and welcome back to my small little library. Today, let's talk about some fall favorites of mine and books that I would want to recommend to you when you want to have a fall read that maybe isn't of the cozy kind, but more of the mysterious, slightly disturbing kind, but like still fall reads. Like, in my opinion, these books that I picked out from my bookshelves I like the kinds of books I want to read in fall that are kind of creepy, kind of mysterious, but they do have a lot of like flowery themes and like just like plants and stuff integrated into the stories, and then some that just like the feeling just screams fall. To me, fall is my favorite season. Today is also the first day we have slightly fall feeling weather. It's still quite warm, but at least it's raining for the first time in like forever. So yeah, it's feeling really autumnal, and so yeah, I wanted to give you like some recommendations of books that probably a lot of these are really well-known books, but I thought, why not get it out there what books I would want to read this fall if I hadn't read these already. I might do maybe a reread, maybe not. I don't know how much time I have for rereads because I do need to get my TBR done, but these just feel really, really autumnal to me, and I don't know, they just give me this like mysterious warm feeling that I want in fall. Going obviously it's Halloween season as well for me. Like, Halloween season also starts with fall season, so that goes into it as well. So the first book that I want to recommend is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I really enjoyed this one. It's pretty much just a book about weird sisters. When they were younger, they vanished, and all three sisters together, they vanished and they came back a month later. And all of them were kind of weird after that. And also, they were physically changed. They came back with black eyes and white hair. So obviously that was, a really big mystery. And then we're now quite a few years later, and all three of the girls are more or less grown up. The youngest one is 17 now. And yeah, we are pretty much get thrown into the story at that point, and then one of the sister vanishes, and the main character, the 17-year-old sister, she wants to find out what happened and what is going on, what happened when they vanished, all of that, and we kind of get brought into that, and it's I would say it's a slightly darkly sexy book, but like it's a really seductive book. Like, it really plays with the theme of seductivity. Can you call seductiveness? I don't know what the right word would be, but yeah, it plays with that. And then we have a little bit of like the flower theme, and it is obviously a mystery what happened to them, and they are all really, really attractive and have this mysterious aura around them. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I feel like it's a good pick for a fall read. Then we have one that is more like, it's a pretty sad book, but it is one I absolutely love. And I feel like this time of the year is the perfect time to read it if you haven't read it yet, and that is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. And I have this really, really nice edition that is illustrated. So, we have like just a random illustration from the book here. But I love this edition. It is wonderful to read the book. It is, I don't really know if I would say it's a children's book, but if you look at the format and layout, I would say it feels more like a children's book. But it has pretty much a really, really dark topic. We have our main character, who's a little boy, and his mother gets diagnosed with cancer, and our main character starts getting nightmares when his mother starts the cancer treatments, and then a monster comes around, and it's like a really, really old dark monster. And the one thing the monster wants is the truth, for our main character to kind of have a really honest talk with himself and be able to admit that to the monster. And yeah, it's incredibly sad. It's a really, really sad story, but I feel like it's also a really, really impactful story, and just the whole mood the book sets feels really autumnal to me. So yeah, if you haven't read this one yet, this is my absolute must read from Patrick Ness. I haven't read so much more from him, I think 1 or 2 other books, but that one by far. Also, I feel like what should be said is that the idea of the novel, he didn't, like, it wasn't his idea originally. The idea is by Shogun? Sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce this name. It's an Irish name. Dowd. And she had the idea for the story, but he wrote the story. So yeah, that is perfect. If you read any book from this list, read that one. Then we have just one of my all-time favorites, but I always feel like getting around to this again in fall, and that is Annihilation, because it's one of the biggest mysteries when it comes to book form. It is so creepy, and it is so good, and I feel like if you want to get more in like the mysterious mood, and it also plays with organisms and plants and stuff like that, so I feel like that also fits into the theme. But yeah, if you want a really, really good mystery and don't necessarily need an explanation, go with Annihilation. If you want the explanation, you will need to read all 3 books, but if you are totally fine with like just getting a mystery, go with Annihilation. This one is like by far my favorite mystery all around. So yeah, go with that one. Then we do need to have the obligatory I'm going crazy book, and that is The Wicker King for me for the autumn season, fall. This is pretty much a book about 2 friends. One is a little bit of like a loser, more or less, and the other one is the Golden Boy rugby team guy. And our loser is a little bit of a pyromanic. And yeah, Jack is the name, I think. No, August. So kind of fitting fall. But August is the pyromanic, and he starts having visions and living in a fantasy world. And because Jack and August have this really, really weird, intense friendship, Jack feels like the only thing he can do is play into the fantasy that August has. And the book goes crazier and crazier from there, which you can also see because our pages get darker the more we read. And, you know, you get from these really pristine pages with like pictures and stuff in them, and then it gets darker and darker. It's also kind of a mixed media book. You have a little bit of like pictures and letters and stuff like that in there. It's a tragic story, but I feel like it's such a good read if you want something character focused, and also kind of like these like intense friendships you maybe had when you were younger. And I don't know why, but for me, because of the intensity of the book and like the hallucinations and all of that, it kind of feels like a creepy fall book to me, but I feel like that's just a me feeling. So if you would actually put this in this list, is probably, you know, a personal choice, but a choice that I do have taken. So then the next one is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. This one I thought I wouldn't like when I got it, but I got it in a fairy loot. But this is actually one of the few books I actually really enjoyed from the fairy loot, and that is, it's such a good book. We have our main character who's actually a man for once, and he pretty much married like this really beautiful, mysterious woman who's really, really rich, and her name is Indigo. And yeah, he is pretty much a scholar of fairy tales, and she seems to be a fairy tale. That is pretty much the get-go of the story. And in exchange for the vows, he promises to never dig into her past. That is pretty much the deal they have. I will marry you if you don't dig into my past, because I don't want to talk about my past. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine with that, you know. We met when we were adults already. I don't really care for your past if you don't want me to care for it. But then Indigo's aunt starts dying, and they have to go to her and help her and stuff like that, and things start coming to light that maybe not the most ideal things. And yeah, I just love it. It gives me a total fairy tale autumn feels all around. It is like a really dark, moody book. But it's actually one where I really, really love the relationship of the people, even though the mystery brings like a little bit of rocks in there. But yeah, it feels like a fairy tale that isn't a fairy tale because it is not a fairy tale, but the characters are so ethereal in this book, especially Indigo, and her whole life story, we learn a lot about Indigo, feels like really fairy tale-ish, but then you have this moody mystery like spinning around it, and yeah, I really like this. I think it's a great mystery if you want a mystery focused on a couple, and a dark past of the female in the relationship, then that one is fantastic. Then we have one that is a little bit more on the nose, and that is City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab. This is one of her teeny novels, I would say. This just is a classic because it's a ghost story, and it's a ghost story in Scotland. Her parents work for TV and they film paranormal TV shows. And Cass, our main character, she died, or almost died, in a lake, and ever since then she could see ghosts and help people go over into the afterlife. And so she obviously goes with her parents because she's a teenager, and her adventure goes from there in Scotland. There are a lot of ghosts in Scotland, and she goes on an adventure, and I feel like it's a really nice ghost story because it's so much of history in there and adventure, and I feel like even though the main character is pretty young, it's still a lot of fun to read the book. I feel like that is sometimes really hard with younger characters, and I feel like this one is a really good young character, even if you're an adult already, you know. So yeah, the whole series I would recommend, but obviously if we're gonna go with single books, I would go with the first one, with the City of Ghosts. You know, I feel like it makes the most sense to start in the beginning. Then I have one Neil Gaiman book I kind of want to recommend, and that is The Ocean at the End of the Lane, which this is also it's pretty much a book about the ghosts of the past, and also hard family relationships and childhood friends, like kind of magical childhood friends. And this is also one that has like this really, really moody feeling because our main character feels so lost in life, and then he goes back to his hometown for a funeral, and he pretty much goes on a drive down memory lane, and we learn just about his life and his struggles in life with his, I think, stepmother, who wasn't really good to him, and then the family next door, or like a few doors down, and yeah, they have the ocean at the end of the lane, and it's just a wonderful moody book, and it is absolutely a fall read in my opinion. And if I have this edition, I don't know if they all come like this, but I have this illustrated edition with these like kind of like charcoaly drawings, and I really love this. This gives the book so much. It's just, you know, it really takes you into the story, you know. So yeah, I absolutely love this one. I feel like the mood gives me fall, even though I think it doesn't really play out in fall, but you know, it's the mood for it. And then we have actually a German book, but I do think you can get it in English as well, and this is Der Schrecksenmeister, which I don't know what the English name for the book is, so I'm gonna insert it here for you because I only ever read it in German, obviously. And it's by Walter Mörs, one of my favorite German authors. And this is absolutely a fall book because our main character is pretty much an alternative cat. It's called a Katze in the book because the German word for cat is Katze, and they put just an R in there, so Katze. So it's kind of like a cat in this fantasy world. It's the same world where Captain Bluebeard plays out in, and the city of Dreaming books might be the right book. But yeah, we have our main character, who's this one, and he lives in this place where pretty much most things are about healing. healing herbs and salves and apothecaries and stuff like that. But then we have like this one really like bad guy who is the Schrecksenmeister. He is just this really scary guy, and our main character, the Kratze, he kind of makes a deal with him, because our main character is like a really, really small thing, and he gets bullied by a lot of the other creatures that live in this fantasy city, and so he gets into a deal with the Schrecksenmeister, and the whole story is just getting out of the deal alive. And it is just a great adventure, and it reminds me so much of like Halloween spirit and Halloween season. We also have a lot of bats that live there. They're special bats, but yeah, they live in the attic of the Schrecksenmeister, and they also play a big role in the book. But yeah, it's pretty much just a book about surviving this really, really scary thing that lives in the town. And this whole town feels a little bit like... it always reminds me a little bit of Nightmare Before Christmas, like this town, Halloween town from that. Like, you have all of these weird little creatures, and they live in all of these different houses with like secret chambers, and then, you know, they have like potions for stuff and stuff like that. So yeah, I would really recommend this one. It's a lot of fun to read, and the main character is just really, really cute. So I mean, if you want to have like a cat-like creature as a main character, I feel like it really works. So yeah, that is the one German book I want to recommend. So these are all of my fall recommendations. If you don't want a cozy, maybe a cozy mystery or a cozy romance, you know, I feel like a lot of fall books go more into the cozy thing, and I much more prefer the dark, moody stuff or the full-on mysteries, you know. So yeah, these are all of my recommendations. I hope you enjoyed them. If you've read any of these books, leave your opinion of them down below, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!